Hey guys, and thank you for your time today. Today we are discussing international training and management development. This presentation is by Monica Rivera and Aleth Walker. The training function. A well-trained and educated global workforce is critical to the success in the global marketplace. Therefore, following 7 imperatives have been suggested as keys to global organizational learning in talent and development. First and foremost, think and act globally. Become an equidistant global learning organization. Focus on the global system and not its parts. Develop global leadership skills. Empower teams to create a global future. Make learning a core competence for the global organization. And lastly, both the global organization and its individual members must always constantly reinvent themselves. Issues related to global training and development. The major issues related to global training and development center around the design, development, implementation, and communication of the training programs, including both the technical and non-technical training. It is risky to roll out global training programs without localizing the content and implementation, since centralized approaches are likely to reduce both the acceptance and effectiveness of training interventions. Localized approach to global training and development. The effectiveness of T&D is likely to be impacted by structural concerns such as legal obligations to train, labor force, etc. Global training initiatives that fail are usually due to badly interpreted material, politics, or even difficulty accustoming to the new material. IHR professionals must always take the effort to understand local laws, practice, level of employee skills and knowledge, and also employer obligations in order to improve the profitability of the objectives ahead. Culture. Before setting up training programs, IHR professionals must always understand how that specific culture views the educational process. For instance, in many Asian cultures, education is considered to be a very authoritarian phenomenon, and the degree of deference to instructors influences the extent to which a participative style can be used. Culture will influence hierarchy among students and in all forms of interactions with instructors. Culture influences the role of the students based on their gender and positions. Learning styles are also related to culture. It is clear that in addition to differing personal learning styles, people also differ cultures, and countries are used to differing training and teaching styles. Educational levels and forms. One of the reasons that provision of training and management development to multiple subsidiaries around the world is so complex is because the basic educational infrastructure varies so much from country to country. Language. Problems that involve language include whether or not to provide training for the global workforce in a single common language or to translate training programs into varying languages. Another issue includes providing language classes themselves. The ability to communicate accurately and effectively takes on increasing importance, and removing language barriers help ensure successful business transactions. Training and development laws. M&Es must always take account of national laws and regulations. These laws may focus on the requirement to spend a certain % of payroll expenses on training, or how to train on certain subjects, for example, safety, sexual harassment, cross-training, reduction in force, etc. All in all, to translate material into the local language and to provide financial resources for employees to receive training. Transfer of learning. Finally, transfer of learning issues are especially critical in cross-border T&D. This has to do with the extent to which people that are receiving training are able to apply what they learn to their actual job. Trainers must always pay attention to who needs to receive this training, and transfer of learning concerns arise in a number of special situations for the multinational enterprise. Standardized approach to international T&D. M&Es must always ensure that the same T&D is available for all of their worldwide employees, on a timely basis, and especially non-technical training with the advancement of communication and IT technologies. M&Es are now taking advantage of opportunities provided by IT by providing virtual training programs worldwide. The only problem with e-learnings is that they should not be overlooked, and if there is issues such as implementation and cultural acceptance issues, these need to be brought to light. Localization is likely to always be needed. Virtual and global teams. The changing nature of organizations requires that the employees work increasingly on projects and in teams. It is necessary that M&Es organize training programs and curricula around the formation and management of teams. Teamwork and team effectiveness have been subjects of research in organizational behavior for many decades and are heavily influenced by culture. Team members from cultures that are relationship-based rather than task-oriented may be more effective in utilizing their networks to benefit the team. Virtual teams present some unique leadership and training challenges, and the IHR becomes responsible for making sure that global teams members receive the necessary training to work efficiently with one another. Best practices that relate to virtual team leadership include establishing and maintaining trust, ensuring that trust is distributed, diversity is understood and appreciated, managing virtual work life cycle meetings, monitoring team progress using technology, using team building to enhance virtual team performance, continuing periodic face-to-face meetings, enhancing visibility of virtual members within the team, and enabling individual members of the virtual team to benefit from the rest of the team. Global leadership development. T&D is also responsible for the development of managers and global leaders for the M&E. Here too, the effect of globalization is being felt. It is definitely being present in the globalization overall. A number of new global leadership theories and models emerged as a complement to the emerging global company model. Global leadership theories. The Globe Research Project is the largest academic study on leadership from a global perspective, with the primary objective being to identify global leadership characteristics that are universally accepted and effective across all cultures. Transformational leadership is a leadership style in which leaders focus themselves and their followers on achieving higher level visions and missions. Global executives, developing managers in the global enterprise. The most formidable task in HR facing global firms is the development of a cadre of team members, managers, and executives who have a deep understanding of the global marketplace and have the capability to transfer this knowledge into resolute global action. Global companies need executives who can easily switch from one culture to another, and such executives are the key to global business success. It is not easy to build a cadre of such leaders, and too many companies have been slow to become truly culturally aware simply because their key decision makers lack the necessary international experience and exposure. Many global firms have invested well into the development of their local staff, and too much localization has often resulted in insufficient globalization of the managerial ranks.
Patterns of global management development. The primary purpose of identifying patterns in global management development is to manage the careers and job assessments of high potential employees. The most important element of multinational enterprises is the priority placed on identifying and managing talent. Common elements include identifying individuals with executive potential and using close monitoring and mentoring. Identification of high potential leaders. Organizations identify their leaders with cultural practices and different leadership identification approaches, traced according to national culture. The elite political approach is a model that identifies talent when an individual is recruited from an elite school. This model is based on leadership identification following a different leadership development plan. These plans are generated from developing countries that have large businesses that are either family owned or government owned enterprises, and top managers that come from family ties or political connections. Development of global leadership competencies. Researchers have argued that leadership is not a function of position but of action. Inquisitiveness is a characteristic of curiosity that holds character together. Effective global leaders are continuously curious. Perspective. Global leaders have a unique perspective on the world. Most managers avoid uncertainty. Character. The ability to connect emotionally with people of different backgrounds and cultures by displaying personal integrity. Savvy recognizes global business opportunities that mobilize organizational global resources. Multinational enterprises are interested in developing leaders throughout their organizations. Describe clearly the focus behind globalization in business is to identify and connect global market trends, application innovations, and business strategies. Outline issues essential to effective strategy alliances, frame day-to-day management problems and goals in global contexts. Think and plan beyond the historical, cultural, and political boundaries, structures, systems, and processes. Create an effectively led worldwide business team. Help companies adopt an effective global organization structure. Global mindset and the definition of a global mindset. In general, different perspectives and/or views are generated from their personal experience and culture that has shaped them throughout life. Lacking international experience and exposure often limits their abilities to be successful. Having a domestic mindset is at the core of the global leadership development. The global perspective includes sensitivity to multiple cultures and their differences. It is a complexity of the professional lessons and their transformational quality of the personal lessons. Extensive international business experiences, the ability to scan the world from a broad perspective, identifying trends and opportunities that may constitute a threat, create opportunities to achieve personal, professional, organizational, and objectives. Characteristics of a global mindset requires developing a new set of competencies, the ability to conduct business on a global level, work and communicate with multiple cultures, develop a sensitivity to different cultures and their values, demonstrate the ability to manage organizational change and respond to different situations of change, effectively manage cross-border and multicultural teams, be comfortable with ambiguity and rightness with evolving issues. The 4 T's. Travel. International traveling is short-term, possibly 1 year at a time. Training, accessing the knowledge, skill set, and abilities needed to excel in a domestic environment. Team, being able to communicate effectively with teammates and transfer. International assignments may require relocating or assignments being moved to a different region for completion. Cross-cultural adjustments, the design and delivery of cross-cultural training. Many assignees and their families experience difficulties adjusting to foreign situations. 80% of families experience challenges. Relationships between husband and wife. Family habits change in their sleeping and eating habits. Culture shock is a psychological and emotional response people experience when they are overwhelmed by the lack of knowledge and understanding of their new environment. Training should focus on becoming aware that behaviors vary across cultures and may include being different than what they are used to. Build a mental map of new cultures so that they can understand why local people value certain behaviors and practice the behaviors to become more effective in their New overseas assignment. 5-phase process for designing effective CCT programs. Phase 1, identifying the type of global assignment. Phase 2 determines the specific cross-cultural training needed. Phase 3 establishes short-term goals and long-term goals for determining cross-cultural training effectiveness. Phase 4, developing and delivering the programs. Phase 5, evaluating programs. Knowledge management and multinational enterprises. Globally integrated throughout standardization of business processes, responsiveness and local pressures in order to adapt to local cultural and legal practices and sharing of knowledge. Common barriers to knowledge management and sharing include ignorance and lack of relationship, lack of systems for sharing, belief that knowledge is power, insecurity about the values of one's knowledge, lack of trust, fear of negative consequences related to sharing what one knows, the belief that the best practices do not move across borders and cultures, language and translation issues, superiority and or condescending attitudes.